Hello, welcome back. Welcome to the course of Unix for Tester, Unix manual concepts which are required for manual testing basically, and how we can automate all those concepts like executing various commands on Unix terminal, shell scripts, and rest of the stuff. Okay, SFTP operations and all, so that we can incorporate those automated things in your test automation framework, for example, Selenium. So, without further delay, let's start with very first video Unix introduction. Okay, we all know Unix is basically operating system, and originally we do not see any UI. So when Unix come in front of us, we just see a Unix terminal. Okay, just like how my command prompts look like. Okay, so basically Unix is the operating system, and which was born in late 1960 or 1960, I believe, and it was originally began with a one-man project which was led by Ken Thompson of Bell Labs. Okay, and it has since grown to become most widely used operating system for various usages, various purposes, which we am going to talk in short in next few minutes. Okay, so in the time since Unix was first developed, so as I said in 1960, it has gone through many different generations and even mutations. Okay, so some differs substantially from original versions, like the one which are your under BSD, which is workless software distribution, or your Linux, and others are still contain the major portion that are based on the original Unix source code which was developed. Okay, so on internet you can find a history of Unix, what and all generation it has. So it went through many generations, but the very first one was in 1960. Okay, so now okay, and I have mentioned over here is Unix is multi-user multitasking operating system. Okay, so before that, let us understand quickly what is operating system. Though in everyone have studied what is OS in their college days, and we know OS is operating system, just like my Microsoft Windows, which is just a kind of interface in between my computer hardware and me as a human being. Okay, so operating system is just like it is just a program which start up when you turn on your computer and turn underneath all other programs. Okay, without it nothing would happen at all, because I cannot go to my RAM, to my hard disks and tell, okay, go ahead and run this program. No, I cannot do that. I need to interface in between that, which is my operating system. In simple term, I can say that an operating system is a manager. It manages all the available resources on computer, from the CPU to memory to hard disk accesses. Okay, so the task the operating system must perform, um, like controlling your hardware, could be running your applications and managing data and files on your hard disks or hard drive. Okay, like copying the things, deleting the things, moving, removing, all those things. Okay, running the applications, like running the job, or running any kind of software, running applications, running processes, browser, games, and blah blah blah, many things we have. Okay, so that's basically what my operating system is. Okay, now let us come to the point. What I have mentioned over here is what is multi-user and multitasking operating system. So I'm saying here is Unix is multi-user multitasking operating system because it allows multiple user to use the computer system simultaneously, right? Unlike how my uh, old versions of computers are, like I have my DOS operating system, or I can take an example of Windows, earlier one Windows version like 3.1, which were single user single process operating system. Unlike that, this is multi-user multi-process operating system. Okay, so before I talk about this multi-user multi-process multitasking operating system, let me talk quickly about two more things, which is single user and single tasking. Okay, single user and single tasking operating system. Okay, so basically they allows only one user to run at a time on your computer system. Okay, and user can execute or run only one process at a time. Okay, that is what your single user and single process operating system is. Okay, and for example, we have DOS operating system, in which you can have only a single user and you can only execute single process at a time. Or we have very older Windows version like Windows 3.1, just for an example. But nowadays as well we use DOS. That is one of the latest example we have over here. Okay, then next one is single user and multitasking operating system, or single user multi-process operating system, which basically from the name itself we can just now, it basically allows a single user to use the computer system, but user can run multiple processes at the same time. Okay, that is what my single user multitasking operating system is. And for example, we have OS2, which is kind of one example of this single user multitasking operating system. Now let us come back to the one what I have mentioned over here, multi-user and multitasking operating system. As I said, allows multiple users to use the same computer operating system simultaneously, and to run, each user can run multiple processes at the same time, which is what my Unix or Windows version does. Okay, that's what Unix is, multi-user multitasking operating system. Now, um, next point I said is, in Unix everything is about files and processes. So in Unix, I'm talking about these things in detail in my next video. Just a short introduction. Everything is about files and processes. So in Unix, everything you see is about files and processes, like whatever hardware is connected, or uh, anything which my CPU perform, everything is files and processes. Okay, so even directories, that is my folders which store files, they are termed as files only. Okay, so that's what, everything is about files and processes. I'm going to talk about this in detail. Okay, and it is over 30-year old. Unix is over 30-year old, and and its popularity and users are still high. Okay, and why it is? Because we all know it is very faster, and if you want to have any operation or processes related to, let us say, if you want to perform your file processes or trigger some jobs, or many usages we have, which I'm going to show you, that's very popular. Okay, it has a large number of application. Okay, there are numerous amount of applications available for Unix operating system. Okay, they ranges from the commercial applications such as CAD, Maya, then your Word Perfect, to many free applications. Okay, that is what it making more popular. It is less resource intensive. Okay, okay, before that, like there are many free applications and even free operating systems. We have the various free versions of operating system which we have, which I'll tell you in shortly. uh, I said it is very less resource intensive. In general, most of the Unix installation tends to be much less demanding on system resources. So even if you will notice in my one of the video where I'm going to create my Unix environment on Google Cloud, so it is just taking me less than half minute or less than 15 seconds to get my Unix uh, environment get created for me, right? So it is very less resource intensive. I can get it very quickly. It has very less number of resources it needs basically to start. In many cases, the old family of computer that can barely run on Windows more than sufficient to run the latest version on Linux. Okay, because it is very less resource intensive, as I said. Internet development. Okay, much of the backbone of internet is run by Unix servers. Okay, many of the most general web servers run on Unix with Apache web server and other free application. So even though we don't see them, they exist. Okay, and next I want to talk about okay, before I talk about Unix usages, let me talk about flavors of Unix. Okay, so basically, there are two categories under Unix. The very first one is open source, and the second one is proprietary. Okay, these are the two categories. So under proprietaries, we have some operating system which you might have heard, like we have Solaris, we have IRIX, then we have Mac OS, okay, and we have a couple of more, okay. These are proprietary version. Then there are many open source operating systems. So open source is nothing but your source code is readily available and it is free to modify. Okay, so we have some versions, like the very first one is we have FreeBSD, Barclays software distribution. Then this is basically one open source Unix version. Now uh, we must be knowing that Linux is just a copy of Unix. Okay, so uh, even you can use your Linux distribution to perform all the processes or all the things what you want to do in Unix. Okay, so you can say Linux is just a flavor of Unix, you can say just a free flavor of Unix. Okay, and we all know we have different Linux operating systems, like we have Red Hat, we have Debian, we have SIS, we have Slackware, and many more we have. Okay, so that's what the different flavors of Unix we have. We have open source, which are free to use, and we have proprietary versions like Solaris, IRIX, and Mac, and could be many others. Okay, so and it is just like in proprietary we have good support and we have few more extra features, but it is not like we cannot achieve them with the open source version what we have, like FreeBSD and other free Linux distribution like Red Hat and a few other. That's perfectly possible. Now, what are the different Unix usages? Okay, so I mentioned over here the three different usages, like user support tools. So it has a various user support tools. For example, it has text processing tools like VI editor or SED or AWK, which is a kind of programming language itself. It has a productivity application, which we will be talking about. So it has a very in fact many user support. The main purpose of Unix is to work with files, to work with processes, create the process, execute the processes, process the files, and this kind of stuff. Okay. The second point I mentioned is programmer support tools. So programming language and the compilers like C, C++, Java are available for your Unix distributions. Okay, you can create a shell script. As I said, the main purpose is create the files, process the file using shell script. Likewise, the only two things, processes and files. Okay, and that is what we can achieve with the help of shell script, which is the main thing which we do in Unix. Okay, and we can use personal software processes, version control, revision version controls, and many other things. Finally, I mentioned Unix as a server. So in Unix we can on Unix we can create our own web servers, our mail server, application server. And so in most of the organization, if you say what is my application server, so even if you don't see it, but when you say my application server, in maximum of the cases your application server is in Unix. Okay, so apart from I just mentioned three over here, but apart from that there could be many number of uh, applications or usages what Unix have. Okay, now let me talk about architecture. Okay, I'm taking pause over here. I'll continue about architecture in next video. Thank you.